I call to order the meeting of the Skokie Public Library Board of Trustees of Wednesday, December 10th, 2025 at 6:31 p.m. Are there any comments from observers?
There are
We have approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 12th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of November 12th, 2025? Any discussion? Consensus vote means
Yeah, you can just say all those in favor.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We're going to move on to the review of closed session minutes of, would you like me to read them out?
Yeah.
September 10, 2014, December 13, 2017, February 10, 2021, March 10, 2021, June 11, 2025, July 9, 2025, August 13, 2025, September 10, 2025. Are there any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to keep closed the minutes of September 10, 2014, December 13, 2017, February 10, 2021, and March 10, 2021?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Do I hear a motion to open the minutes of June 11, 2025, July 9, 2025, August 13, 2025, and September 10, 2025?
So moved.
Good. All those in favor?
I have a question.
Yes,
Yeah,
so, sorry.
We're reviewing the closed minutes, but we're opening them up.
That happened.
The closed session minutes that Lisa just read out, those are the ones that were recommending that we open, not really close anymore. We're opening them up. The minutes, the written.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We are going to talk about the approval of destruction of audio recordings of closed session minutes of March 13, 2024. Are there any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the destruction of the audio recording of the closed session minutes of March 13, 2024? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And just if I can clarify, the destruction of the audio recordings is in kind of 18-month cycle.
Mhm.
So it's a standard procedural thing that most boards will approve of. And the closed session minutes that are open of the nature that it's very, there was a discussion of like my performance review and everything. So it wasn't there was nothing in it that was needed to be
I
closed
was
and
just
private.
surprised because it's a review of closed session minutes, but it doesn't say anything about opening meeting unless I.
There's a
unless that just comes
separate
with it.
folder. Did you go into the other folder?
I can share that with you. Yeah.
All right, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I would find it helpful in the board packets if there was an indication that other than in just the email, that
Okay.
there's more to look at. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can do that next
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
I can even prepare a memo that goes in the board packet.
That would be great, because if I forget that there was more in the
Yeah,
email.
of course,
yeah.
no problem.
Second.
It's not an official vote. It's not on the agenda. We can't vote on that.
We are going to move on to the executive director's report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you. And thank you, Lisa, for presiding over the meeting. I appreciate that. I just wanted to point out a few things. Good news, the village of Skokie passed their levy ordinance, which includes our levy. So the levy amount that you all approved in September of this year was kind of passed through the village of Skokie ordinance. So that now will be passed on to the county, and then hopefully we'll, in a timely fashion, receive our funds next year. So let's see what else. Yeah, I think the other big news is just kind of some of the community stuff that I mentioned here. I want to point out the Chamber of Commerce has a new executive director. I don't know if I'm Carol Harris is her name, but there was an announcement, public public announcement about it, but she'll also be introduced in person at the chamber holiday party tomorrow evening. So if you're interested and available and attending or even stopping by, please let us know. We can still give you a ticket for that. We had the ILA legislative breakfast last week on Wednesday, December 3rd, and that was a well-attended event. There were a number of staff members from local legislators present in our area, in our district. And Amanda was also there, and I included the handout from that session. So if you have any questions, please let me know now, or you can email me as well. But it's just an annual event where we discuss some of the legislative concerns that we have, and nothing's, decided there or anything like that. Of course, it's just more for information purposes and networking. But, yeah.
But how many people attended that event in total, would you say?
I would guesstimate maybe 200 or 150.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of directors and there are some higher level staff attend, and then local legislators, some elected officials attend, but often they send their chief of staff or someone from their staff.
Most of the attendees at my table were trustees, so
Okay.
we're in good company.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Is the trustee training that they reference here, is that the iLead portal, or is it something
Yeah,
else?
it's really not formulated right now. It's just the idea is that the public policy committee is working on trying to make it so that there is some element of required training for each year for public library trustees.
Mhm.
It's common in other industries or fields, but there's nothing mandating that for public libraries in Illinois. So it's just kind of, the thought is that it would be helpful. I think for us, you all receive a lot of information about like workshops or Rails emails and all that, but some libraries around the state might not have all that information and resources. So it's just kind of an initiative to try to make sure that everyone is at least getting some type of training each year. So, well, I'll keep you abreast of any updates. So on that. So, yeah.
I was glad to see that it seemed that there was a large discussion at least about the cost of ebooks, because I know that's something that we have discussed a lot. So I haven't used the QR code, but I guess my question is what types of legislative actions in particular are they looking at taking to help control costs for Illinois libraries?
Yeah, I mean, I think some states are trying to take action to try to push publishers to work in a different manner, but it's, I don't know all the ins and outs because it's a lot of legal and court stuff, but up to this point, it's been a long battle and a long road to try to improve the situation for public libraries. I mean, we're talking about 10+ years where we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Ever since the ebooks and digital content came out, it hasn't worked on the same traditional model that libraries are used to, which is we buy a book, we own it, we loan it, right? But that's just not how the publishers have set up ebooks. There are no easy, obvious solutions, I guess.
I just like the demand is only going to get bigger and bigger,
That's the assumption that we're making, is that people will continue to kind of move toward, some people will continue to move towards new content, and it'll take up more of our funds, our budget for collections, while maybe less usage of the collections, because most CERC is still happening with physical content for us, but we're spending a disproportionate amount on content right now because of the cost. So there, at some point, Laura and Annabelle Munson, our Director of Access Services, and her staff are keeping an eye on things and just kind of weighing, like, where's the breaking point for us? Where do we just need to say enough is enough and just kind of keep things steady, But and we'll have those discussions with the board for the next budget cycle as well in February and March. So. But that's all I wanted to highlight from the report, but if you have any other questions, I'm happy to comment.
I'd love to hear more about the Dolly Parton Imagination Library.
Yeah, that's a fun project. So, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with this project, but, it's basically free books for kids, anyone who signs up and recently, this past year, the state director of the project actually, lives in Skokie.
Oh,
And she's a Skokie patron, and she approached us asking, we think she doesn't have coverage in Cook County. And so she has Chicago, but the rest of northern suburban Cook County, there's no program established. And so it's hard for us to kind of try to tackle all of northern suburban Cook County, but what we can do is kind of tackle it at Niles Township. And so we're working with the Niles Township libraries and Niles Township itself, the Skokie Community Foundation, the Early Childhood Alliance. So, and we're trying to get it so that we will raise enough funds to start this program in March for our Niles Township region, and just as kind of a push to start getting at suburban Cook County. So
And what's our involvement gonna be?
we'll be involved not with actually giving money to the program, because that's really, can't use Skokie taxpayer money that's designed for library services and kind of push it over to a program where we're just handing kids books,
Right.
or to keep. But we'll provide some administrative support for the program, just maintaining the database of registrants and promoting the program among our patrons. And so the other libraries in Niles Township will also promote the program. So hopefully we'll really get the word out that this is freely available to any family with a young child. They can sign up and start getting free books.
There's an equivalent program called PJ Library for Jewish books.
Okay.
And I think they do a lot of the promotion through schools, like when they see people have registered for like a Jewish program, they'll send them all the information
Okay.
about it. I think that's how I knew about it. to begin
Yeah,
with.
yeah. My hope is that through the libraries and the local schools, private and public, that we really get the word out to all families in Niles Township, so that people just sign up and they start receiving the books, right? Pretty easy. So, yeah, and so we're not really involved with the fundraising portion of it. That's where Skokie Community Foundation, Niles Township, some of those bodies are more experienced and more appropriate for them to handle the fundraising.
Times at Burns book day, I wonder if they're involved as well, because I know that they send books to kids in need specifically, not just general public.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they are, but it might be a little different because these books are coming from the Dolly Parton Imagination Library collection and warehouse. Like, they prepare all these books, they ship them out, so they're not used books, they're brand new books. So I'll keep you updated on how that's going. Nancy and her team, Nancy Capotes, our community engagement director, and her team will also be involved because we're hoping to get our local library volunteers to help with the administrative tasks.
I think there's also some real opportunities to start to talk to staff beyond the administrative, where we could, work with schools and other partners to highlight the books that are coming into the
Oh,
homes.
that is nice.
Make it more supportive of literacy than beyond registration and, registration. So we have to get the first thing started, but I think there are other opportunities.
We have to get a certain amount of money to be able to launch the program, so.
Were there any other discussion points or questions about the executive director's report? Okay, no motion required, so we are going to move on to the approval of November 2025 disbursement report. I believe that's on page 13. Do we have any questions or comments?
Income is the.
different parts, different subject areas going at different times.
You used to see, Baker and Taylor all over it with that, budget line, but they went out of business. So Credit anticipated, this change and they switched everything over to, or most things over to Ingram. And so we have had no problems getting, our materials. I think other libraries who might not have had that foresight had a difficulty adjusting during that period.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question on the technology network, item 3277 for Orange Boy Inc. I think you had mentioned that you were revamping your intranet, so I'm more curious about that larger initiative and how this ties into it.
Yeah, I mean, Laura can talk about it, or do you want to say a little bit about what Orange Boy is and how it's part of the internet revision?
Orange Boy is a security reporting system. So right now, all of our incident reports, accident reports, our safety log, our list of suspended patrons, all of that is part of our home-built, homegrown intranet. So it's, again, very outdated code. Things keep breaking, the wrong people, not the wrong people, but sometimes the correct people don't get the reports that they're supposed to. So this is a vendor we can work with that provides those systems, and then we customize it to the fields that we want, the information that we want to collect. It has a very robust reporting system. So we are in the process of setting up with them. We haven't rolled it out to staff yet. It's not functional yet, but that's part of the startup costs that you see there.
That's part of a larger intranet revamp, where Laura and Devin, our colleague, just presented on that, actually.
Yeah. We're moving the entire internet over to SharePoint. So most of it has moved over with a few outlying pieces like the security reports that will go through Orange Boy, our ticketing system, which we still have to build out. But the basic structure of the internet is now there on SharePoint. And because we're a Microsoft library, it will integrate really well with file storage and other ways that we communicate here.
Will there be a cost savings then with that integration? I don't know if there were costs associated with the old intranet versus migrating to SharePoint, because obviously we're paying for Microsoft services already.
Yeah. I don't know that there will really be a cost because the internet was built so long ago.
Okay,
And,
I wasn't sure if there was like a
yeah.
server database or that we were paying to have to maintain it or something.
Yeah, I mean, it does take up space on our servers, but in terms of outlaying money for it, not really. And the Microsoft, we're already paying for it, so one way or another, we already have access to SharePoint.
Yeah.
So, not like the website where there was a clear cost and cost savings.
I mean, Orange Boy is an additional cost but it's a very important piece of our internet that we need to get right. And to Laura and Devin's credit, they really saved us a lot of money in building everything through SharePoint rather than using another internet platform that we would have to then pay for, you know, on an annual basis. So this is just the one piece that it wasn't easy to create and build.
And it's also a piece you want to make really, really sure that information stays private and that it's, secure, it's accessible through logins. So it's not as open as a lot of the other information on the internet will be.
Okay, and is that like an annual subscription for Orange Boy, or is that a one-time fee that we have to pay?
There was a startup fee, but then it will be an annual subscription.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly how much it is annually, but it was quite reasonable. They gave us a reasonable quote.
Okay,
when we were-
all right, cool, thank you.
Any other questions about the disbursement report? Do I hear a motion to approve the November 2025 disbursement report? Mary?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Lula?
Yes.
I say yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes 4 ayes to 0
Yeah,
nays.
4-0.
4-0. Thank you. Approval of first floor window replacement project, pay app number 3, which starts on page 18. Are there any questions or comments?
Just to, add that this is the last one you'll see for the window.
Was my question. I was like, how many more of these are we gonna see?
And I don't know if I can predict your next question, Mary, but if you don't have the hot water replacement final payout, because it has all the things that need to be checked off haven't been.
How did you know I was?
Were you gonna ask
I was like,
that?
yes.
I do have one piece of good news with the windows, which is that only a tiny bit of the contingency was used, so $33,000 of the contingency was not spent, so.
Budgeted, but not spent, which is a
Correct.
nice thing to say after a big project, yeah.
So that stays in the general operating.
Those are fun.
Those are-
Yeah, yeah, it just wasn't spent.
Do I hear a motion to approve payment of the first floor window replacement project payout number 3 for a total cost of $44,860?
Second,
Mary?
yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Lula? Say yes. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the consent agenda, which begins on page 25, I believe,
20.
20.
With the finance.
With the financial
Yeah.
statement. Any questions or discussion?
Again, I just want to mention that we have some mid-year reports from public services and community engagement, and both Amy and Nancy are here. If you have any questions about either one of those reports, we can comment.
Oh, can we start with the 2019 Geo Bond Series, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure.
So we are up to the 2025 point. I'm not sure what this is for. Could you please?
Yeah.
go back for me?
Yeah, and Allison, our finance manager, is here as well. This is just a schedule for our debt payments, related to our first and second floor renovation project.
Mhm.
I don't know what that noise is. Was it outside? I don't know if it should.
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The noise level, yeah. Yeah.
Much over here.
I think it's right here with Luann. Thank you for listening about that. So we're, this is a debt payment schedule for our bond debt that we took out for the renovation project of, the first and second floor. So it's just, once a year, we share this with you just as, FYI, here's where we're at. And, so we're making progress here.
Chugging along.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't quite sure what
Yeah,
that was.
yeah. There's no, it's just included in the financials because there's no, action needed. So,
Mhm.
I had a question on, that's what programming.
she'll be right back. Yeah,
Okay.
sure, yeah.
Okay, we pivoted it.
Well, what's your question? Maybe I'll be able to.
Okay, so when I look at page 29 for the programming summary report, I noticed, I mean, I don't expect that the programming level to be always equal. It just because we have 142 events one year doesn't mean we'll have it the next year. But I was quite curious where we maybe only had a decrease of 11 events, but then the overall attendees was down by over 1,000. So
Yeah,
I'm just curious if that's speaking to, like, was it the size of these events and how many people that we could have? Is it because maybe some of the events that we had were not as popular, or like what was, it just seems that there's a
Yeah.
disparity to me between a small decrease in events, but a much larger decrease in participants.
I haven't examined it in fine detail, but my guess would be that it's not that the programs are less popular or anything, but sometimes even one or two programs that are of the nature where we have like a lot of people who are flowing through.
Mhm.
I
do
actually
you have
answered
insight
Oh,
into
this
okay.
that?
question. I believe that's
And
probably
then
what it
before,
is.
I just want to flip it on the inverse then, because if you go to community and partner events, the number of events went up significantly, but then the number of attendees went down.
Oh, that's what I thought you were looking at the bottom.
No, I was
of it,
looking at the
but
top
yes,
part, so 142 to 131, and then 3,900 to around
Right.
2,900,
Well,
so both.
In both cases, I think that it really depends. One year you might have even one or two programs where you have several hundred people come in, and it's of the nature, like I was saying, that is, you know, maybe a big community event or like something like, you know, a volunteer palooza, you know, where we have hundreds of people. Like if you have a handful of those events, it could just kind of skew the numbers that way, but that's why I always, sorry,
I can speak to the community events ones.
okay, well,
Yeah.
the year-to-date numbers is what I really try to.
Yeah.
catch
I
up.
would like to, I look to look at year-to-date as well, because I feel like that's more comprehensive
Yeah.
and everything, but I was just curious about, like, the disparity between those numbers.
Amy, Mary was asking why there what might explain the drop in the number of programs, but also the number of total attendees month to month from last year to this year. And I was just saying that even it could be a couple of like events of the nature where you have like hundreds of people or like a large community event that could throw that off, you know. But
Yeah, because I was like, oh, we only, I mean, I was telling Richard and the group here, like, obviously, we don't expect it to be exactly the same year over year. But when I saw a decrease of roughly only, 10 or 11 events, but then a decrease of over 1,000 in terms of the number of participants, I was curious why a small decrease in the number of events would result in a much larger decrease in the number of participants.
There's a couple of things that we're seeing. One of them is just down to data collection. So with the service model change and running the boombox in the activity room a little bit differently, and I put that in the public services mid-year report. The youth staff who were previously doing exclusively programs for teens that were formerly programs on the program calendar are now doing every weekday plus Saturdays, just open space with activities for those kids.
Okay, so that's
So-
not going to be tracked as necessarily a program, it's just people flowing in and out of the space doing it.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
so that's a big piece of it, specifically around youth. What we're also seeing is we've experimented with raising the number of programs in some ways. And while the number of programs has been going up, the number of attendees is flat. So we're seeing like this too much supply, or rather, we'll have some days where adults especially need to choose between which of the two events they want to go to because they're in two separate rooms at the same time. So a lot of it for us is trying to figure out right sizing the calendar to make sure that as many people who want to attend something can, because we have two things at once, we're only going to get potentially half the attendees. So yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. And yeah, when you look at the breakdown of numbers, you can totally see that the number decrease is definitely heavily concentrated with kids. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think Nancy's going to answer the second part of the question.
And actually, I realized I stepped up too soon.
Oh, okay.
Looking at November, I knew from year to date, and I can go back and look at the November more specifically.
Yeah, I would just like to get a better understanding of, the number of events went up, but then again, we almost had a, 40% decrease there in attendees. So just
Yeah.
kind of curious if it's something similar to what, Amy's talking about, or is it too many event or something? So it would be great to get insight on that.
I will come back to that and find out. I know we're doing some different types of partner events where we're going out and there's smaller groups,
Okay,
purposely, like some of the senior residence facilities. We've started like new connections with them, and they're not like big community event things,
okay,
but there's like exploring different audiences.
okay.
I was gonna say, and now when I look on the year to date, it's not as big as it, when you pull it all together, but just things like Richard said, fewer people came to we had like 1,000 less people that we counted for the 4th of July. It was really, really hot, we didn't go to Pride this year because it exceeded our temperature guidelines for weather.
Don't forget the eclipse viewing that was last year.
Yeah.
That was like the
Yeah.
biggest event
Right.
ever. Yeah.
And
celestial events.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the downtown Skokie trick or treat, we saw hundreds fewer too, and it was a time where not as many people were coming out on at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was also like a weird timing this year. I think it was like a Friday and a lot of the celebrations were the Sunday before.
It was Saturday.
Saturday, right?
Yeah, yeah, but it was hundreds fewer on that, maybe even 1,000 on that too. But yeah, actually, I'll have to look back on November
Yeah, I was
itself. The
curious.
year to date,
Yeah.
I was
And like,
saying
again,
what
I'm
Richard
not
said,
super
just a few
focused on
things.
year-to-date data. I was just, when there's a big data disparity, I just like to understand. And I do want to commend you too. I think it's good that we're experimenting, and I think it embraces the whole notion of our strategic plan. I incorporate this also as part of play, like how can we experiment and play and try to figure out what combination works as the needs of the community change and evolve. So just because we're learning, I guess, is what I was saying. We've had more events, maybe not as many attendees, and I like that we're taking that information and then pivoting and then figuring out what will work instead. So I think it's all very worthwhile. That's why I just like to see the numbers and validate, okay, what did we learn from it and what are we doing going forward? So it's great.
I have a comment. I just wanted to add to this. I loved seeing the micro examples at the very intimate one-on-one level, just the detail of those examples of scenarios where people really needed one-on-one support for very personal reasons. And that to me, it's cool to see those experiences in number form, because they're, mostly narrative and they're happening kind of in flux and it's in real time. And to just see the number of daily interactions, daily encounters, that's where the community, soul stitching happens in the library, where there's really that one-to-one contact, and that is kind of like the micro programming that's happening continuously. So it was very moving to me to see that. And this is just more a universal question / comment, is just how to continue to encourage people to engage at the library on that level, to have the courage to ask the question, to come, to pick up the phone or to interact with the librarian. And I know everybody's super friendly about saying, can I help you and stuff, but that's, I think, where the magic is happening a lot of time. And of course in programming too, but at that level is really commendable.
Yeah, thank you for saying that and noticing that. I think that I 100% agree with you. And during the renovation project, we took a lot of time in thinking about where to situate our various service points, but also on top of that, especially downstairs on the first floor, where the advisory staff move around and kind of just make sure that they're moving throughout the space and not just kind of sitting at the desk has been really helpful for the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
it's really effective. Thank you for compiling all of that. That's really cool.
I have another question for Amy. I was very interested to read about this evolution that is happening with the boombox and the activity room, and I would like to understand the data or the information that was used to make this transition, and then to understand how it's going so far, and then do you plan on making any additional tweaks or changes based on what you've experienced so far?
Yeah. So, we designed all of these phenomenal spaces and they were built during COVID. So the first time people came back, we didn't necessarily get to launch spaces the way they had been envisioned in 2018, 2019. Very true in the kids' room. So what we had started to notice just out in the kids' room, families sharing comments at the desk, asking, what is there for me to do my age? In 2023 into early 2024, really started hearing an uptick of my preschooler has all these places to play, but their older sibling doesn't necessarily. And hearing from kids, including when they were visiting on school tours, at that point when we started them back, it was with third graders, but what is a space just for me? And we didn't particularly have that. So many of our spaces were either all ages, like the general kids room, or the boombox at that time was intended for kindergarten through 8th grade, when in actuality we had a lot of preschoolers. The activities weren't developed for preschoolers there. So after kind of getting a sense of all of that just shared feedback, youth staff in particular, but also staff in the boombox as it was, did some chatting with participants in kids programs, in drop-in spaces, and also their caregivers talking about what is it that you like in the library, what do you wish the library had, and that sense of like a space that is for me was a big piece of it. So with that, we kind of wove in what we know from, I don't know if you're familiar with the Search Institute, their developmental assets they have for teens, for youth, and it's essentially what are these assets that it's going to be beneficial for kids to develop things around like independence, decision-making, curiosity, and looking at, all right, how can we leverage some of our spaces to provide in those areas and allow kids, everywhere is a preschool room while school is in session, because preschoolers, 0 to 5s aren't necessarily in school, they're in the library. But after that, the only dedicated space we had was for teens. And so wanting to kind of make sure that there's that progression, that this is your library, there's a space for you at every age throughout adolescence. And looking at that point at the facilities that we had and the realities of those ages, kindergarten through 2nd grade, with our unattended children policy, you still have to be with a grown-up. So the activity room with some guided, very literacy, like emerging and newly independent readers focused activities, that's what the staff have really been experimenting with in there. And then using the boombox as a tween space. So 3rd through roughly 6th grade, we often see for fall semester 6th grade kids don't feel comfortable with the teen room yet, but we anticipate in the spring we'll see fewer of them when they do feel comfy, and doing a lot there that's on independent. What are things that you want to do? This is a place you can hang with your friends, make new friends. It's been a really big hit. We've been hearing specifically from 3rd graders who are participating in the 3rd grade tours this year, as well as the outreach visits staff are doing at schools, specifically promoting to 3rd, 4th, 5th graders that the boombox is a space for them. So just every week there are more kids who they're used to their habit. They go to the kids desk, what is there for me to do? Staff say, well, you're in 4th grade, you can go to the boombox. Like, oh, that's right, the boombox. So it's been, we just switched after Labor Day. So it's been an initial process of getting some familiarity while we're testing out different activities, figuring out staffing levels, and also how much choice is too much choice. There's not a whole lot of agency that elementary kids get in their day-to-day these days. So it's been a learning process for their social emotional development to be oh, what do I want to do? So that's what we've really been experimenting with. We've been doing it predominantly with materials we've already had on hand in terms of configuring the rooms, of course, buying supplies. And so Sophie Kenny, our youth services manager, overseeing with her team, what are we noticing, collecting data, collecting input, so that ideally after the first of the year and into the next fiscal year, we can work on refreshing those spaces to meet the specific needs as they are now.
And then what was the name? I didn't catch it, what you said, the institute or the group that you're the different.
Yeah, it's called the Search Institute.
Okay.
Just the word search, all caps, I forgot what it stands for. Libraries have their own acronym, so I don't know theirs.
Yeah, because I'm more familiar with the Erickson Institute when I worked in childhood development with toys and stuff. Several of the people I worked with had very advanced degrees from Erickson. So I was familiar with that, but I was not familiar with the Search Institute. So.
Yeah, so Erickson, and actually one of Nancy's staff members has her master's from Erickson. Erickson is a really great resource that's especially the 0 to 5s, and then starting to have those kindergarten through 2nd grade. And then again, it's what's the research, what's the evidence-based practice across those age ranges, and how can we support that? So
that sounds really exciting. Yeah. More playing and figuring out what works.
Yeah, I got to actually staff the boombox on Monday. I don't normally have a recurring shift in places, and it was really cool. Full disclosure, I was a camp counselor, so it got to tap into that. But yeah, seeing kids, nobody who came in there knew one another yet, but the way that they were open to being introduced and started doing stuff together, it was exactly what we've been hoping we would be able to support. And those of you who have kids who have younger siblings will appreciate the number of parents we've had to say, yeah, they just really wanted a space where they didn't have to take their little brother. So we have a spot for their little brother, it's just not right now, so.
And I think it's interesting, you're talking about the transition of that one space to the next space to the teen space, and then I would further, maybe challenge isn't the right word, but then how do you move those teenagers then when they're older, even up into the space up here, you know, in the maker
Yeah.
space? And I think many of them are probably already doing activities with parents or guardians or whomever, but if not, you know, if they're more independent in that way, how can you move them up the steps into the next part of the library?
Well, and that ties in with some of the questions and things folks have noticed about our programming stats in the past too. You know, what we report to the state is just as though every program has a singular age audience. And we've actually been trying to think about how can we have more things that bridge teen and adult to provide not only like the visibility of what is available as you get older, but making some informal connections so that you don't feel like a stranger when you come up to the second floor.
Yeah.
So.
I just want to have the no algorithms, advice, recommendations actually came in handy for me when I went into youth services and said, I need books that look with real pictures but have been doodled on. I don't even know how I would search for that, and they were very helpful, so thank you for that. I was wondering if there was a thought process gone into charging for photocopies, and if we might consider doing a certain amount complimentary per the card holder.
And comment on that?
Yeah, so we monitor our printing and photocopies to get a sense of where we're at so that especially we're not like making money on it, which we're not. So one of the pieces that we've been looking at is what are the volumes at which people are printing. We have a lot more printing than a lot of neighboring libraries do, which is an interesting stat. Although we've been having trouble with our vendor right now, we haven't had new printing data since July. So we are eager to have that. So what we're essentially trying to do is monitor and figure out where we're at a point that it can make sense for the cost loss essentially with how much the typical person is printing and where we would be able to offer something for free. You know, a certain number of pages per day, and then it's a matter of working with in our ILS system, and there would be policy pieces too, because we can't just credit people money on their account because we're not going to pay them out if they don't print. So
I guess I would just add, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but Laura and I both worked at the references kind of growing up as library newbies, and if someone comes with a need and they need something printed and they just, you know, they need it quick or they just aren't able to pay for, you know, print jobs or whatever. I mean, oftentimes we would just need to, you know what I mean, bend the rules a little bit.
Informally.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to, I guess, make money here. We're just trying to recoup costs. And if it's a matter of like someone really needs something, we'll just probably, and if it's a reasonable request. So, I'm assuming that that's the nature of how we handle things
yes,
here too.
yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because that I don't think to bring it up because that is just so normal with the day-to-day
Yeah.
process.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Were there any other comments about the consent agenda? Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
I,
Motion passes 4-0. We're going to move on to the approval of 2026 Lyra insurance renewal, which starts on page 38.
Yes, so, in my memo, I just kind of remind the board, because this comes around once a year, so it's easy to forget. Lyra is essentially a library pool for insurance, business insurance, so property, cyber, liability. So these are things that we're not talking about medical insurance coverages, in other words. So Once a year, we get a renewal quote for covering us for the next calendar year. And so this memo is just detailing what that renewal looks like. It's actually a very modest 1.9% increase.
But we were expecting higher,
We
right?
were expecting 8 to 12% increase, and so this is the benefit of working with a pool that's very large. There's more leveraging when our administrators go to the carriers and try to negotiate a rate. So I was thrilled actually with a modest increase of 1.9%. I recommend the board approve it. The insurance renewal have a total cost of $133,329.13. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Just one note that on the sheet, the first sheet, it should be corrected in your PDF now, but on the first sheet, the employees listed was incorrect. So we do not have 301 employees, so.
That jumped out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some questions on the financials. So like, for example, I was surprised to see that the total insured value actually is going down year over year when I think about things, to replace things is actually going up. So so that was my one question. Second was on employees, how it could possibly nearly double year over year. So you answered that. And then lastly, it was like the vehicle count, understanding what's in that vehicle count.
Yeah, that's a bookmobile in the Ford, and when the Sprinter van is added, say in the summer, then we'll contact them and basically inform them that we've added another vehicle to make sure that that's part of our policy.
Okay. So could you go over then why total insured values is going down?
Yeah, I can ask your administrators for probably a better explanation, but I think it also has to do with just depreciation of what it, so Bula is.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
What
of.
happens if they look at the balance sheet, like for workers' compensation, we have fewer employees, that's probably, it should go down, but I guess it depends on how many claims. I mean, I don't know very much about insurance, but I do know
But
what
it's
they
part of
look
a
at.
formula.
Yeah, exactly. So when the value of the the assets that we have goes down year over year because we're amortizing or,
Right.
depreciating it over time, and you're not buying extra fixed
So like
assets.
furniture, the building, the vehicles.
Yeah.
Computer equipment.
Right. Kind of nice that it didn't increase.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was thrilled because every year in this insurance market that we've had for the hard market that we've had in probably the past 10 years, it's just a scary thought every year. And this year turned out well for us. So.
And then I believe we've talked about this before, I just would like to reiterate it, so I'm sure we're all under the same understanding. When we enter into the LERA contract, the primary benefit of that is really about the sheer number of libraries that are involved in the contract to help keep costs down. So there really is no true benefit to quoting this type of insurance out with other companies.
Yeah, I mean, I would highly advise against doing that, and breaking off as a solo policyholder. First of all, a broker might give us a package of coverage that is not quite the level that we get through LERA, but quote us slightly less, annual cost. And we might think that we're getting a better deal, but when you look at the leverage, the power of the coverages that we have and the scope and how it's structured, we're actually benefiting from being within a larger pool. So.
Okay.
I
I only wanted to ask because usually best practice with almost any other project is you quote it out with more than one, but obviously this is a little bit different.
But essentially, because we're in a pool and because every year the administrators go to bat for us essentially,
Okay.
they're
the
the ones going out and getting multiple quotes for each type of coverage.
Okay.
From various carriers. And they also, the administrators of LERA Gallagher have very well-established relationships with these carriers, so they can talk in ways that we would never be able to just directly, through a broker, so.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the 2026 Lira insurance renewal at a total annual cost of $133,329.13?
Second.
Mary?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Bula?
Yes.
I say yes. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
We are now going to discuss the review of per capita grant requirements.
This is really honestly just a formality. Part of our per capita grant that we receive from the state library every year requires an application, and in that application, they say that the director and the board need to discuss that there are Illinois Public Library standards. These standards are actually not like rules, they're more strong recommendations of like what the threshold is or the aspiration should be for reaching these standards. And I have worked with our team to closely examine all of the new standards and can confidently say that we meet the core standards across the board. And so some of the intermediate and advanced standards, many of those we meet as well. And we've identified some of the standards that we think that we need to do a little bit of work on, but they're all more advanced level standards. All the core basic standards we definitely need. So I'm just sharing this as more as for your information and to let you know that we will apply for a per capita grant again, and I'm sure receive that. If you have any questions about the standards or the application itself, please let me know. I'm happy to speak on that.
I just have a quick question in this section here. It's about like this requirement. It seems like an either or. In last year's application, the library was required to adopt the ALA Bill of Rights that indicates material or provide a written policy adopted by the board. Why is it, maybe I'm just not getting it, why is it
So,
presented as an either or?
Some libraries just do the simple adoption of the ALA Bill of Rights.
Oh, okay, that's what we
And
did,
some
right?
libraries have a separate entire collection development policy,
Oh, I
like
see.
stating their commitment to a broad collection that without censoring materials.
Uh-huh.
And what we've done actually, to be honest, is approve a policy, the board has approved a policy that includes within it the ALA Bill of Rights, so you're adopting, we've done both. We've
done
adopted the
all,
Bill of
okay.
Rights and we've created our own like robust policy on
Got
this,
it.
so, or I was just actually coming to Susie earlier, because Susie prepares the application for us, and
Mhm.
that we, technically, we can check both the boxes, you know. we've
Right,
done both,
okay.
yeah.
I just
But
wanted,
good question, yeah, it's a little confusing.
yeah, thank you.
Sure. It's not like one is better than the other. So,
Got it, okay.
I think it's great that we meet a lot of the core standards,
Yeah.
and I appreciate an external, measuring yardstick that we still meet, which is wonderful. So,
I think it's helpful. A lot of work goes into those standards, the writing of those standards by members of our professional field, and
yeah, you can tell.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really well done.
There's no motion required.
No,
Did
yeah,
anyone
this
have
is
any other
just-
questions? Okay. We're gonna move on to the HVAC, approval of HVAC consultancy proposal for air handling unit replacement. Any questions or comments?
This is a big one, and Laura can present some more information, and we have Andrew Melville from GBA on the line if you have questions about the project. But Laura, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'll just give some broad strokes. Once again, large, expensive building project. That's not very exciting to most people, but air is very important. So we want to make sure our air handlers are operating at peak performance. Right now, they are very old and way past the end of their lifespan. We've been able to sort of baby them along. We've replaced some parts and kept them going as long as we possibly can, but it is time to address this. So we worked with GBA earlier this year to do sort of a preliminary look at what was possible. And you can see here their proposal for how they think we should proceed. They're recommending that we replace both of the air handlers on this floor, which is not all the air handlers in the building. It's just the two on this floor that supply air for the east side of the building. So the first two floors on the east side.
Forgive
And-
me, why do we need air supply? What,
Andrew, you can jump in here too. Is he, Andrew, are you still there? Well, hopefully he'll come. Essentially, in my layman's understanding, the air handlers, they take outside air and they mix it with either the heated air or the cold air, depending on the season, and circulate it through the building.
so like a
you-
car?
Yes.
Sorry, hello,
Oh,
can you hear me?
Hell yeah.
Sorry, yeah, so the question was about essentially what the purpose of these are, why we need the air handling units.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is providing the cooling and the heating to your building. This is analogous to like your furnace in your house, except much larger. There's heating and cooling and fan components that's part of this larger air handler unit then that, like I said, provide the heating and cooling. So if you look up in the ceiling in there, you'll see what are called grills or diffusers, and that air that's being pushed into your room for the cooling and heating is being supplied by an air handler unit. So these air handlers that we're replacing were installed in 1973, I believe. Was that when that east wing was constructed? A typical lifespan for air handlers, we say, is about 20 to 25 years, although with good maintenance, they certainly can last much longer, as we see in this case. But like what Laura said, yes, a recommendation that it's time to replace them.
The recommendation is that we do a phased approach, so we can keep one of them running, and just funnel all the air through it while we replace the other one, and then we'll vice versa. So we can replace the second one, and that would all take place during the shoulder season next fall. So the reason we're talking about it now is because it takes a long time to design all the specifics, order the equipment, install it all. It will have to be brought up in pieces to the second floor mechanical room and assembled in there. It's pretty tight quarters in that room. Andrew, do you want to add anything about the proposed schedule?
Yeah, so like Laura said, we're proposing, there's a design process that we, the engineer, perform the full design and develop drawings so that the project can be bid. So we're proposing to do that early next year. There's a lead time. So when you place an order for the air handler, it takes a good amount of time. I think we're estimating about 20 weeks or so. So that's what we would like to design and bid early in the year, so that the air handler would then be replaced in the fall time.
As I mentioned in the memo, we worked with GBA on our chiller installation a couple years ago, as well as the hot water pump replacement that we're just wrapping up. So they're very, very familiar with our system, with our building, how everything works together in our patchwork of different ages of things. And the recommendation on the table is to accept the attached proposal for design and construction administration for the air handler replacement project at a cost of $105,000. But any more questions?
How many air handlers are there in the building total, and what are the lifelines of those?
Yeah. Andrew, do you have that in front of you? If not, I have the capital asset study I can dig out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The question was how many air handlers there are?
Yeah, how many
Yeah.
air handlers do we have, and what are their current life expectancies?
Yes, so you have 5 air handling units in the building. So these 2 were installed in 1973. The other 3, there's 2 in the basement that serves the west wing, and 1 in the 3rd floor that serves the 3rd floor of the east wing. Those 3 air handlers were installed in, I believe, 2002 with the major renovation that happened at that time. I would anticipate that those would, like I said, typical expected service life, operating life for air handling units is about 20 to 25 years. So those other air handlers should, recommend it to be monitored and planned for replacement in the relatively near future. But they still look to be in okay condition, that I think that imminent replacement is not necessary.
Just want to add also, if I can, the capital asset study that the board adopted or saw I think it was early last year, it included all of this, and if you recall on that document, there is a 20-year, essentially 20-year plan for what we're gonna tackle and when. And I think part of that is designed to not take on everything all at once because we can't afford that, right? So, and this kind of ties back to my comments in tax levy discussions and budget discussions about making sure that we always take care of our reserve fund in terms of not letting it just kind of be depleted all the way down, but continuing to put, let's say, 600,000 every year into that account or into that fund, so that while we're spending, we're also kind of like putting back, so that we can take on all these projects over the next, especially over the next 5 years or so. We're gonna have some major work done, and this is probably the biggest one of them, but there's definitely other projects in that capital asset study over the next 5 to 10 years that we have to tackle. So.
And why does the system need to be redesigned?
Well,
Yes.
jump in, but,
Yeah, so it's kind of the nature. Yeah, it's, I made the comparison to the furnace in your house, with a small piece of equipment like the furnace in your house. Yes, obviously it's very easy to get a mechanical person to come in and replace that. With much larger equipment like this, I mean, the size of a small room, you need, and they're at this size also, they're relatively custom built. So means a design engineer will come in and decide how big it should be and what the size of the various components should be to meet the library's heating and cooling needs. Another purpose for going through this design phase is also, like I said, we prepared drawings and specifications that define the scope of what should be installed, so that you can then bid this to multiple contractors to go through a bid process and identify the lowest bidder. So that those drawings that we prepare are the basis for that bid process.
Thank you.
And just to clarify what Andrew just mentioned earlier, and I think Lauren referred to as well, we're not asking for approval of the actual project right now because we don't have any bids to show you. But later on next year, we'll have, after the bid process and the recommendation of GBA, we'll have, just like we did with other projects, we'll bring forth a recommended bid for awarding that bid project. So this is just to get to that point.
Any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the GBA HVAC consultancy proposal for the air handler replacement plan for 2026 at a total cost of $105,000? Mary?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Lula?
Yes.
I say yes. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, and thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
I want to say Laura and our building services manager, Vinny Tangerlini, did an excellent job. And this is a long road to even get to this point of understanding the project, right, and the need. So thank you.
Okay. Do we have any comments from trustees? Anything we want to cover before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of December 10, 2025? All in favor?
Hi.
Motion passes